you have to get to the why.
Right, exactly.
You have to get to the why. And for me, the why was easy, but, now you have to hustle and you have to make it pay for itself.
Right.
Welcome to the Golding Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of best practices, latest trends, and modern techniques for professional business communication, including advertising, marketing, digital channels, social media, public relations, and alternative options.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special guest edition of the Neo Marketing Podcast. I am here today with Vicki Langford. Good to see you, Vicki.
Good to see you, Kyle.
Now, Vicki wears many hats. She's a co-owner of multiple businesses, including DD Audio and SoundCued, which is under the Resonance family brand. She's also the owner of Project 3810, which is where the Golding Group office is. And today we're going to talk specifically about the 3810 Incubator. Not enough people understand the value of incubator and why they should be participating. And Vicki's going to talk us through these things and explain why it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people who have a lot of ideas to be working in an incubator.
Yes, I'll do my best.
All right, so let's just start right off at the top. You have the Project 3810, like I say, where our office is. It's offices, it's co-working space. There's a brewery now. Thank you for bringing brewing and tap room and brewery to the building, the north side of the building as well.
Yeah, I got my beer over here on the side.
That's right. Y'all don't know what we're doing after this episode. That's for sure. Warehouse space, loading docks, a commercial space. So there's offices, but there's also commercial space. Like I said, there's co-working. It's a collaborative, creative space, but it's also an accredited incubator.
That's right.
How long have you been accredited?
The middle of 2018. I think it was June.
Okay, so for a while.
We're on our anniversary month.
There you go. There it is. So it's been a couple years. What made you decide to not simply just be a landlord here at Project 3810, but to include the incubator aspect?
So it was actually kind of an interesting mesh of events. Our main business, DD Audio, we do car audio speakers, mobile electronics. So we had an inquiry from a startup that was in an interesting space. They were doing some outdoor fire pits and they wanted to incorporate audio. They had just been buying off-the-shelf products. So they contacted us. We met with them. Our design engineer teams, was like, oh yeah, we can help you. We can do better.
Because those guys always like to design cool stuff, right?
Absolutely. That's the passion of the business at the end of the day. So in that process, I kind of was there as my role of operations and CFO and different things and kind of, so have you done this on your business? What are you doing on your marketing? What are you doing on this? How are you manufacturing this? And I just kind of started having these startup conversations with them. And that kind of inspired me because it's been a long time since we started. And as I was trying to research things to help them, I stumbled across this certified incubator program that the Department of Commerce was advertising. And I was like, OMG, light bulb, aha, whatever, all those things. And this piece of real estate, which is right next to our main business of DD Audio, was available. And I had kind of had my eye on it, but I didn't know. I couldn't make a reason to make it work.
Right.
I couldn't justify that investment, but I wanted it. So I was like, what if we could be an incubator? And that would be a great adventure for me to go on. And also it would be really cool for the side of town too.
Typical entrepreneurs answer to, I want that building, but I don't know why. So I have to find a reason to get the thing I want to do.
You have to get to the why.
Right, exactly.
You have to get to the why. And for me, the why was easy, but now you have to hustle and I have to make it pay for itself.
Right. So you were taking your experience, your vast business experience. You were trying to coach other people. You also have been associated with the SCORE program and some other things too, right? So you have always had the attitude of helping people with their business from the experience you have of starting your business, right?
Absolutely. And even in my role of operations and CFO, at the end of the day, we're teaching and training. We're developing policies and procedures. So you have to train people.
And then 2020 comes along and you have to change absolutely everything about your business. And then we change back in 2021.
Yes.
Who the heck knows what the future holds, right?
Come on, universe. Nothing too crazy.
So for people who are maybe listening to the podcast right now, they have a startup, maybe they just have an idea and they haven't got as far as an actual startup yet. What are some of the requirements to be a participant in an incubator program like the one here at Project 3810?
So the actual requirements from the Department of Commerce is it has to be an early stage startup, so less than 2 years.
Okay.
And we classify that post-revenue. So, for example, the brewery. It took them about 2 years to get all their licensing, get their investments, get their equipment, do the build out. They didn't actually open their doors until February 29th, 2020.
Right.
That's when the clock starts.
Right.
As soon as you collect that first revenue,
Okay.
then that's when your 2-year clock starts. So a lot of times it's also based on the fact that that is going to be a time frame that a business can afford or needs to seek additional space, and has the resources to pay rent. So that's kind of the idea of early stage within 2 years of actually starting. So that's really the only requirement that the state gives us. What we do as incubators is we have an application process. We interview, making sure that you're a good fit, one for the space, but also for just our connection, because we're going to be working together and
the
like
right attitude and the right openness, and then of course, right, we always want to steer people in the right direction. And if maybe their idea isn't feasible, there are a lot of ideas in the world that can't become businesses. A lot of ideas that can't become products, or products that can't become business. Just the economics will be upside down. And
the way to change that is to be open to the conversation.
Right.
And I'm totally willing to be educated because I don't know every single idea and product and industry. But let's have that conversation.
But we know that there's research that has to be done, and there's analysis that has to be done.
And that's like the proving the why.
Right, exactly, right. But you got to put a plan together. You got to put all your ducks in a row, as they would say, right?
Exactly, because we bought this building in July of 2017, and it took me that long to formulate our business plan.
Right.
And so that's that challenge of like, okay, I can get tenants, because we had tenants as early as October 2017. Kyle, you're one of the first ones.
That's right.
And I advertised on LoopNet to get tenants, but to be an incubator, I had to prove a business plan. What is the services that we're going to offer? How are we going to do that? So any business startup has to go through that.
Right. The value proposition, and who your audience is, et cetera. Right.
Yeah.
So what are the
3 Ps?
What are the legal requirements? Do they have to file with the Secretary of State as an LLC or a C corp?
To be an incubator tenant?
Yeah.
Well, you just have to be a business. So I mean,
recognized by the Secretary of State.
Well, so a business can be a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't actually have to register with the Secretary of State if you don't want to protect your trade name. So the only reason that you really have to file with the Secretary of State is to say, I don't want anybody to use this name.
There you go, folks. Tip.
But and that's a $25 a year fee you have to pay. So if you're not going to do that, and you're going to be like, I'm Vicki Langford, services, whatever. I'm going to use my Social Security. I'm going to be a sole proprietor. Okay. I have a business.
So it's that simple.
It's that simple.
Right.
That's the requirement to be a business. To be in the incubator is the same as to start a business.
So you could be a sole proprietor, single person, kind of doing their thing. It could be you could have a physical product, or it could be a service. It could be virtual. It could be something that's done online, like a service,
digital
software,
tech,
a service. All the way up through. But you also could have physical products. You have multiple employees. You could be filed as an S corp, C corp. All of those things, though, if they're still in their first 2 years of revenue, they're still eligible for the incubator program.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So when people are thinking about those first 2 years of business and they're starting their business, why should they consider being part of an incubator program as opposed to that old school sort of going out it by myself? Just hang my shingle out and hope it works.
I think it falls to the infrastructure itself, because whenever if you if you need space to expand your business and scale your business, then you're talking about going and getting utilities in your name. You have to prove credit worthiness.
Business credit can be very tricky.
Yeah, and you have to show, and then you might be required to pay a deposit.
Right.
So with the incubator space, it's all inclusive, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. It's one bill. You don't have to. I mean, even just on the top, when you're talking about operations, the fact that as a tenant here, you just pay one monthly check.
One predictable check.
Exactly.
That you can budget and plan for every month. Predictability is highly important in business.
And as opposed to having to pay 10 different vendors for IT and electric and gas and whatever, phone and stuff.
Plus
Plus
things that you probably couldn't afford, like a receptionist, like receiving, things that would probably be considered luxury items for most startups. Right.
We have that. We call her Linda.
And access to the brewery. So being in the facility itself has its advantages.
Yeah, and then there's the community aspect.
Right.
I think that the community aspect serves two purposes because, one, it's actually having that mentorship from me and the advisory council, which Kyle's a part of.
Right.
And then, but you also have that peer group of other business owners that are going through very similar journeys.
You're not in this alone, folks.
Exactly.
And it's never what you expect it to be.
Yeah.
There's highs and lows. And so having those conversations with other business owners.
Yeah, even if it's not structured, it's just a hallway mashup, and you're like, oh my God, I just had this exact, and they're like, no problem. And then whether it's a support or encouragement or advice that happens on those random things. But the community, you understand and you know people and you get to know them. So even after you leave here, you still know them.
Right.
And so now it's like, hey, I know somebody that can do that job, that you're asking to do.
You build relationships.
And that's just long-term business and word of mouth. And so that's a really big, huge benefit of any space that's a community-oriented space is those relationships that you
guys know, if you've heard this podcast before, we talk about community a lot. It's one of my favorite concepts for business is building a community around your business, around your brand. Right. And so in the startup phase, it is essential to get that community and that mentorship. Even people often too think a mentor has to be someone who has 50 years experience or has some super degree or something, or they're just a billionaire. Like, Mark Cuban should be my mentor because he's that successful.
Right.
But mentors could even be your peers, like you were saying, just that
Absolutely.
They have the exact same experience that you have that you're going through at the same time. That's enough for you to learn from them, and that's mentorship and being mentored too.
Absolutely. And the unexpected.
Now, but there are also economic benefits of going through and then graduating from an incubator program, right?
Yes.
Not just simply being in the program, but
right.
you have to graduate.
And the graduation is...
You got to do the work.
You do. And it's not like some specific curriculum and a test at the end, but it's just participating. It's just going through the journey. That's graduation. But when you actually are in the incubator program, because it's certified and the Department of Commerce has worked with legislation to make this an actual tax benefit. So a graduate of an incubator program gets 10 years of
10 folks, 10 years.
10.
For a small business.
10.
We're talking about people who've been in business less than 2 years. Now you get a 10-year tax benefit. This is huge.
No state income tax. So
no state income
depending on your structure and all that stuff, there's some caveats there, but it's straight benefit to the business of no state income tax. So your first couple of years, you might not make an income. So that's why the 10 years is so important.
Right. Definitely.
Because you're going to make a profit.
For sure.
Then you're going to not have to pay Oklahoma state tax.
And that could save you a couple $100, a couple $1,000. Obviously,
tens of thousands of dollars.
The bigger your business grows, the more money that you would save by not paying your Oklahoma taxes. You still pay your federal taxes, but you don't have to pay your Oklahoma income taxes for 10 years. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
So you get the benefit of community, of mentorship, of having resources available to you, the shared resources of the facility, and then you get 10 years of a tax benefit. And then those long-term relationships that you built along the way, right?
Absolutely.
So what is it?
Go ahead.
No, I cut you off. I was going to ask another question, but you
I don't know what I was going to say.
There.
I was going to say on the community and the long-term benefit is the connections.
Yeah.
So my job as the incubator director is to make sure I'm making connections with the people that can help you, whether it's capital or other types of collaborations. So we're connected with many organizations in town that we can plug you in with.
And ultimately, from that is whether it's an official reference or not, you can speak to other people in the community, vouch for someone, or speak on their credit worthiness.
Yes.
That the fact that they are a legitimate business, that they're trying to do things in the right way, they're growing, they're they're new, so that they're not going to be perfect, but being able to give a reference to someone or a referral because you see them put the work in on the daily. And I know plenty of people who are tenants at 3810 have also hired each other for the different services and the different things that they whether they're hiring each other for services, whether we're buying products from each other, etc. Like those things happen as well, right?
It is. It's been great.
Yeah, it's very nice to feel that. There's one thing to say I'm going to support you. There's another thing to actually put your money where your mouth is,
right?
And then be able to
be satisfied.
And then create that track record of working, being able for people, again, to give references and referrals, point to a project or a time period where you work together and say, hey, we hired them or they hired us, and here's how it worked out. And that's the best way that the next bit of business kind of shows up in your doorstep.
That's right.
So what is different about how you approach the incubator scenario here at Project 3810? What are you doing that's a little bit different than maybe other incubators around the city or the state?
I think that it's not that different, but at 3810 we're zoned industrial, so we have I2 zoning, and because my background is in a product-based business and that we are doing manufacturing, I have that experience, and we also have logistics experience, and I have import-export experience. So with the amount of space we have 45,000 square feet. We have warehouse space. We built out office. We built out commercial kitchens. We built out the brewery. We collaborate with the tenant in those build-outs. So the manufacturing aspect of things is kind of an area that we can specialize in a little bit.
Bring something different to the table than some other people would not have that experience.
Exactly. So
that is, we talk a lot on the podcast about differentiation, about setting yourself apart, about finding your lane and sticking to it. And I think Project 3810 has been really good about being specific about the industrial side of the building. Well, half the building is industrial space, but not just offices, but the industrial space, and and in that flexibility of build out and customization and adaptability, because this space is relatively new in the grand scheme of businesses in Oklahoma City. Project 3810 is only been around a couple of years, so you're also kind of going through the same growing process of developing this business as well, right?
Yeah,
so you have to figure out what the audience wants and needs, how you fill the role in the business community in Oklahoma City, and then actually filling that role. It's one thing to know it, you got to do it too, right?
That's it.
And then on top of everything else, there's beer.
Oh, did we mention that?
We have regular meetings. We have happy hours, but that's part of the boss board. Talk about the boss board a little bit.
Yeah. So when I first started, I was trying to, again, figuring out that marketing strategy, but boss boards, I wanted to not only cater to the entrepreneurship aspect, but I knew I was going to have some tenants that were established business, or just people that wanted to come in and hang out, co-work kind of thing. I'm calling it day space now, but that's another thing. But anyway, they didn't have to be an entrepreneur. They didn't have to own their own business. Maybe it's just that I want to be better as a leader. I want to grow in my career path. So
or a side hustle because I got a
exactly,
day job, right?
Yeah. So let's get together and let's encourage bosses to be better bosses and to create the environment that we would want to be in. So just because you're a boss doesn't mean you got to be that boss. You can be the best boss that you want to be. So
it goes back to community, the idea of community again and collaboration. And so every week there's a boss board event, right?
That's
so
right.
We mentioned happy hours. There's also a breakfast.
The first and third Thursdays are the happy hour events. And then on the second Friday, we do lunch. And the fourth Friday, which is tomorrow, we do morning.
Right. and a
So.
little coffee. Same
Coffee
thing.
and donuts.
Just give everyone an opportunity to
Different
to
times
sit
of day,
and, sit
yeah.
and converse. Some people can do mornings, some people can. Some
That's
people don't want to have a beer. I don't know who those people are, but they don't.
You know, they're there.
Those people are out there.
We love you too.
Lunch and coffee is a great time. Or they could sit. We have people who sit in the brewery and not have,
They have soda and water.
Sip on a water or a juice box and
That's right.
and have those conversations
Juice
with us.
boxes are free.
Juice boxes are free. And I think the main thing is a lot of people might hear the term incubator and think that it's a super complicated process, that it's paperwork intensive, that it's almost academic. And as you can see from our conversation and from the fact that we're talking about having happy hour and doing all of this stuff that is sort of make it up as you go a little bit,
Yes.
that it's not about the structure of, and being in a university type scenario, but it is
Right.
about business owners and entrepreneurs getting in a room together essentially and helping each other figure out what to do, because there's no set road to success, right? Everyone's business is going to take a different
And we're
route.
all kind of jumping on that road at different points in our lives
Yeah.
and perspectives. So what I try to do as a director and working with you is we do an assessment at the beginning, and we kind of say what areas are you weak and what areas are you strong. Then let's work on those areas and help you meet your milestones. And I just try to be that accountability partner.
And I found, now that I'm in the later half of my career, the second half of my life, if you will, now that I'm not a young entrepreneur, I've been doing business of some sort for 35 years now. Started my first business when I was 15. So, but now I find myself a lot more drawn to the idea of mentoring, of helping other people and working in that role of just providing expertise and experience and advice and just a little like, hey, it sucks, but pick yourself up and get at it.
Yeah.
And so
Encouragement.
I find it makes me a better entrepreneur, a better business manager, a better boss, a better relationships with my clients. When I put myself in those positions, I find I'll have a little bit more empathy for young professionals and for young entrepreneurs. Do you also find satisfaction? Do you get satisfaction personally out of being able to work with young businesses or young entrepreneurs and really help them kind of focus in what it is they're trying to do and go from chaos to something that has real potential to be successful?
Yes, I do. And let's be really clear. The end of the day, you have to do the work.
For sure.
So I think sometimes I know I had that at different times when I was seeking help, is like, just come and do it.
No.
But it doesn't work that way.
It's not about solving all your problems
yes,
and answering all your
it's
questions.
Not about
It's about pushing
making
you
your
in the
problems
right
go.
direction.
But it's about encouragement and support, and that's kind of like you were saying, as I've gotten in the evening of my life, so to speak, it's kind of refreshing to remember that journey and then be like, you're gonna make it. It's gonna be okay.
Be that person you wish you had at that point.
Yes, and it's also, it's just about listening half the time.
Right.
Because you probably know the answer. Maybe you don't want to.
You don't want to hear it,
or you don't necessarily want to have to do it, but you probably know the answer. So sometimes it's just like, yep, I 100% agree with you.
There you go. There's a client calling me right now, so we're going to wrap up this special guest episode of the Neo Marketing Podcast. We've been talking about incubators, all things entrepreneurial, and what's happening here at Project 3810, an accredited incubator with Vicki Langford. Of course, folks, if you want to know more about it, in the description, I'll have all the links. You can always hit me up on social media. You can also hit up Vicki on social media. And Project 3810 is also on social media. We're easy to find.
Very easy.
So we're a Google or Instagram hashtag away from connecting with you. If you have questions about the incubator program here, about incubator programs in general, joining a boss board, definitely look up the Project 3810 social media to find when the next boss board is. The public is invited. We want you to come and hang out with us. Whether it's having a beer, having a lunch, having a cup of coffee.
Mention this podcast and you get a free day pass.
Oh, look at that. mention this podcast and I'll buy you a beer too. How about that? So all kinds of great offers. So hopefully people will check that out. Vicki, I very much appreciate you talking about this on the podcast today. I understand enough about incubators to know answer certain questions. I think we got a lot more information today, and I'm looking forward to seeing questions and interactions we get once we post the episode.
Awesome. Thanks.
There it is, folks. Until next time, good luck.
This has been the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend, leave a review, and engage with us on social media. Thanks for listening.